will start to join in as they can. So my name is Miss Webb, or some of you call me Erica, which is fine. I teach all the English sections. So, well, actually I have every section except for like some of the English 12s. But I have English 9, 10, 11, and I think I have English 12 semester 1. I do have an 8.5-month-old son, so you may from time to time hear him squealing or crying or doing something in the background. So just kind of excuse him and just know that that's what's going on. And again, I'm very happy you're here. I actually did this lesson 2 weeks ago, but I only had one participant at the time, and it was very great because she and I got a lot accomplished with just doing something one-on-one. But I wanted to redo it again. I got permission to redo it again because I thought it was a really good lesson, and I wanted to try to get some other people on the call so we could try to cover this topic of how to write a summary. So I have my chat message box up on my screen. So at any time, if you don't understand something or you have a question, please feel free to chat me. Last time I was trying to share a screen and I realized it wasn't sharing. So if you're not seeing like what I'm talking about on the screen, again, please send me a message and a chat message, and that way I'll be able to correct that. And this will be an interactive lesson. So towards the end of the lesson, I'll ask you to start typing things so we can go back and forth and have a little bit of some dialogue. And at the end, I'll just kind of do like a little check-in just to see what you've learned. So it's 7:04. I'm gonna give like a couple more seconds to see if anybody else wants to join in. Because sometimes, even though it is recorded and so students can go back and look at it anytime, sometimes I don't like to have a student come in the middle of something because then they're really lost. I'm going to try my camera one more time to see if I can get it. Nope. Interesting. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and start the presentation or the slideshow. Again, if you're not able to see a certain slide, let me know. Okay, so again, this lesson is on how to write a summary. So what is a summary? A summary is really just a brief. Sorry, I told you all to mute your line. I realized I still have my TV on. A summary is a brief, concise account that sums up the main points of something. So when somebody asks you to write a summary, they're looking for something that's very small, short, and you're trying to just give the main points of something that you actually just read. And it's done without using a lot of detail. So it's kind of difficult for some students to do because typically as a student, teachers are always saying, I need more detail, I need more detail, I need you to write more, write more, write more. And that's for things like essays and papers. But when a teacher asks for a summary, we're actually looking for the opposite. So it's like, this is the time where you really don't have to be very detailed, and you just kind of are giving the main points of what you're talking about. So another way to look at it is that it's just a short statement of the important points. To be very, very brief, I'm going to give you like a little short summary of what a summary is, giving a short statement of the important points. So that's it, short, sweet, to the point. So the goal is to go from this, which is this large, huge paragraph full of a ton of sentences, to this, something that's a little bit shorter and something that's easier to read and very concise. Almost like a text message. Like if you think about when we send text messages, and like even back in the day, a while ago, like on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, you were limited, I think, to like 160 characters. So it's kind of like that. Like you can really have to sum up what you want to say and get to the main point. So the reader is like very clear and doesn't have to read a ton. So any questions thus far about anything I've said? I know this is pretty basic, but I just want everybody to at least know what a summary is before we can continue to go forward. Okay. All right. So why is summarizing important? Sometimes we need to be brief. We need to just highlight only the main and the key points, and then we need to just move on. So again, writing long, drawn out essays and papers has its place when we need to give a lot of information and we want to cover a lot of details. And then sometimes we need to just be very brief and to the point and get to those main key points. So this is where summarizing comes in handy. So how do I do this? How do I get this summary done? There are a lot of, in English especially, there are a lot of assignments that ask you to summarize. And even probably in your other subjects, even though I'm not really familiar with the curriculum, like in social studies or like a history class or maybe even a science course, you're going to be asked at some point to just find the main points of something that you just read. So summarizing comes in handy, not just in English, but in other subject areas as well. And so how do you do this? So you see we have the where, the who, the what, why, when, and how. And you probably remember this from like elementary school when they go like who, what, when, where, why, and then how, when you're talking about trying to find the main detail of something. So this is how we're going to write a summary using these 6 things. So we have step 1, which is write who was in the story in 5 words or less. Step 2, write what happened in 5 words or less. And this part is the most difficult to do because people tend to, when you say, well, what happened? People want to go into this long, long, huge, drawn out story about what happened. And really, remember, it has to be brief. Okay, so we're trying to do everything in 5 words or less for the purposes of our assignments. So again, step 2, write what happened in 5 words or less. Step 3, write when it happened in 5 words or less. Step 4, write where it happened in 5 words or less. Step 5, write why it happened in 5 words or less. And step 6, write how it happened in 5 words or less. So we're going to actually do an activity in a second. We're going to go over all 6 of these steps, but I guarantee if you use these 6 steps when it's time for you to write a summary, you'll be able to write a successful and concise summary. So after you go over those steps, then you're going to write a 1 to 4 sentence summary using the words that you have created with those steps. And if you have like 35 or more words and your summary is too long and you need to cut out some details, because again, a summary is not meant to be a whole entire page. Okay, so you want to kind of make sure that you know you have it really should probably be closer to 30 because we have 6 steps. Each one has about 5 words per step, so that's 30 steps. But I'm kind of giving you some wiggle room to have a couple extra words. Okay, I know there's some people that are just joining the line, so welcome. I've got a couple of little buttons, so please make sure everybody mutes their line. And again, I mentioned just kind of at the beginning that my audio is, my video chat is for some reason not working today, so I'm not able to, you're not able to see me, but I do have my chat box open, so please feel free to chat me if you have any questions, if anytime you can't hear me or you can't see what I'm presenting. And if you missed the beginning portion, which a lot of you have, this is recorded. It will be available for you to get information on and watch the beginning later. Okay, so I'm gonna actually kind of get out of this so we can zoom. So we can zoom in on this box. Okay, so this is an actual assignment from English 11 semester 1. So if you're in that course and you haven't gotten to this, this will be very helpful when you get to that portion. Maybe you've already completed this and maybe you can kind of realize some things you could have done better. And if you're in a different English course, if you're in set up to take this course, at some point you might come across this assignment. But as you see, the title says summarizing. And you're going to use this paragraph about the Reconstruction. You're going to write a summary following the format demonstrated in the video, which will be actually kind of what we're talking about. So this is called Reconstruction by Latasha Smith. I'm going to read it over. Not that you all can't read, but I'm just going to read it just for the purposes of the assignment. So we're right here in this box. It says the primary focus of Reconstruction was helping newly freed men and women establish independent lives through education, laws, and assistance. Many historians believe this was a positive time in our history because it led to very important legislation like Amendments 13, 14, and 15, which freed the slaves and ensured they had a right to vote. The Freedoms Bureau was created to help free slaves transition to a life outside of slavery by building schools, helping with food and medical attention, and giving free legal advice. In fact, the first objective of the Freedoms Bureau when a new person came to them was to see them reunited with their family. For these reasons, many of the events during the Reconstruction positively impacted people for generations. Okay, so that is the paragraph that we're actually going to today practice doing a summary off of. Okay, it's very short, but again, we want to just get to the main points and do a summary for this because that's the assignment. So we're going to use the who, what, when, where, why approach. So let me go back. Okay, so we're going to practice. Okay, so we're on the left side of the screen for every slide from here on until we get to the end. I will have that paragraph that we just read. I will have it on the screen again. So that way you won't forget what we just read, because you're going to constantly need to go back to the paragraph to pull out the information. Okay, so this is when I'm going to need everybody to kind of be a little interactive and start typing some things in the chat box that I could actually add to the screen. Okay, so the first step, remember, was who. Okay, so who are we talking about in this particular paragraph? And I'm going to actually exit out of here so I can actually write in this box. So who, if anybody wants to chime in the chat box to tell me who are we talking about. And let me see if I can zoom in a little bit. That way you all can still see the screen. Okay, good. Rachel said the free slaves. Perfect. Anybody else? Good job, Rachel. That was great. Okay, I believe it's Militia, I think, if I'm saying it right. The free slaves. Okay, so perfect. So, and again, welcome. I know I'm hearing a couple people that have just buzzed in. We have about 6 participants now. So welcome. I'm just going to briefly, I hate the people that have already heard this, but my video chat is not working, so you cannot see me, but you can definitely hear me. Please feel free to chime in. We kind of already covered the big basis of the beginning of the lesson. So if you missed what we talked about, you can go back and catch the recording that will be available tomorrow. Okay, so our first step is, again, who. So we're talking about the free slaves. Perfect. Okay, so we're going to go to the next slide, which is the what. And again, on the left side, I have the actual paragraph for you to see again. So what is actually going on in this paragraph? What things are they talking about in this paragraph? And remember, this part is the most difficult sometimes because you have to really kind of remember, we're trying to do this like in 5 words or less. Okay, so they're trying to build schools. Says DJ. Okay, thank you, DJ. What else? What else is going on here? Like, what are some of the main points that are occurring or that are happening? Okay, so give, Rachel said give help. I'm going to add in slaves to that one because that's really who it's about. Help the slaves adjusting. Okay, good. Anybody else? And for those of you who just kind of chimed in, on the paragraph to the left, it's the paragraph that we are actually working on trying to give a summary about. So we're going through our steps of who, what, when, where, why, and how. And right now we're on the what step. So if you need to briefly kind of or quickly read this paragraph to kind of find out what's going on. But anybody else have any things? Okay, good. Alicia said helping families to reunite. All right, perfect. So I'm going to take this. I'm going to add this here. And this, I'll explain this part in a minute. and then we have our what? All right, perfect. Now, the next step is when. So when is this actually happening? Okay, good. Rachel said during the Reconstruction period. That's fine. You don't have to know the exact time, like the years, but just to say during the Reconstruction period is fine. Anybody else have a different take? During the Reconstruction, Alicia said that too. Very good. All right, so we got that part. That was the pretty obvious one because it kind of pretty much comes out in states that. So I'm going to add that down here to when. Okay. Now the next one is where. Where is this occurring? Where are the events that are taking place? Where are they occurring? And this one might not be so obvious because it's not gonna, it doesn't really list like a state or an actual location. So you kind of have to just kind of guess based off what you know about history, based off what you know about the Reconstruction period, about slavery, about the amendments, and programs for slaves. You kind of have to kind of use your best guess for this one. Okay, so I don't know. Okay, so that's good. We could say so we say slavery time. So based off of what we know about the article, was this before slavery, during slavery, or after slavery? Because that's pretty much what we're looking for. All right, so I don't see anybody chiming in, so I'm gonna just help you out. It's after slavery, right? Because they're trying to come up with programs and assistance, okay, to help slaves reunite with their families, get medical attention, get food, get legal advice. So this is all occurring after slavery, where there's somebody is trying to set up some sort of programs to help the slaves pretty much readjust to civilian life. Okay, so we're going to put that there. So that's how we know that it's afterwards. It wouldn't be during because nobody will be trying to. I shouldn't say nobody because there were people that were definitely trying to help slaves during slavery. But once these amendments were passed that abolished slavery, that's when all of these programs started to pop up along. Okay, how? How were they trying to go about um, helping the slaves? Anybody have a how? Karen Cruz says, does that say speech? Karen, what do you mean by speech? If you could elaborate on that one, please, I'd appreciate it. I'm going to help you all out just a little bit. Helping the slaves be free. Yes. Good job, Alicia, helping. Helping the slaves. Somebody just got on the line. If you can make sure you mute your phone, please. Thank you. Helping the slaves be free and for them to vote. Also, remember they have this, if you look here, they have the Freedmen's Bureau, because you could tell this some type of organization because it's in capital letters, which is where they were trying to help reunite people with their families. So we'll write that down too. Okay, so this is how.
Reconstruction, positive.
Was somebody talking? I'm sorry, I can't hear. Okay, and the last thing is why, which we kind of already covered the why. So the why sometimes can be redundant, but the why is pretty much they want to help slaves get adjusted to civilian life. Okay. Oh, Karen said somebody slipped and made a speech. Okay, perfect. All right. All right, so I'm gonna zoom this screen in just a little bit so you all can see it, what I did. Okay, so what I did was I took our words from every category. So I did the who, free slaves, what, build schools, give help to slaves adjusting, helping families to reunite, when during the Reconstruction period, where after slavery, how, helping the slaves be free and for them to vote. And we also talked about the Freedmen's Bureau and then why it helps slaves get adjusted to civilian life. Okay, so what we're gonna do now, actually need to add a slide. So let me insert a slide here. So I'm gonna take all of what we had. So this is what you could do. Now you have everything kind of broken up in chunks. And we're gonna put everything on one slide. And then we're gonna take out the headers. And then now we're gonna kind of put all this together in one paragraph that actually is coherent, that actually makes sense. Okay, so first we're gonna have to add some words to it. So we can say, free slaves, and then we could take what? We could take this part right here and add it here, free slaves. Needed help and then we could say getting adjusted to civilian life. Okay, now we have one sentence. Okay, so then we just talk about who was trying to help them get adjusted to real life. Okay, so the Freedmen's Bureau, so we'll copy that. The Freedmen's Bureau, I know it got smaller. I'm gonna make this bigger in a second. The Freedmen's Bureau was around to help newly freed slaves with medical, we talked about medical attention, right? Building schools, and to help them reunite with their families. So we got these three: build schools, help them adjust. Okay. So we talked about the Freedom Bureau. And then we could say this occurred after slavery. So we're talking about when it happened. So slaves would feel supported. And that's the why. And then we're done. So all I did was just take each part, copy and paste it, and then kind of add a couple words in between and made my own paragraph. Okay. So that's how you pretty much go from having something large to breaking it down with your who, what, when, where, why, how, writing it all down somewhere or using a computer, writing somewhere, and then you pretty much are going to take all of your bullets or your 5 words or less, and then you're going to try to put it into one paragraph that actually makes sense. And voila, you have your whole paragraph and you have your summary. Okay. So does anybody have any questions? I hope I wasn't moving too quickly. I know some people kind of joined the line at the last minute, but does anybody have any questions or something that wasn't clear? Or if you could just chime in and let me know here one thing that you learned today that you didn't know before we did the PowerPoint today. Okay, good. Rachel said breaking it into pieces. That's very good. And that's really the best way to do it. Because sometimes, and this paragraph was pretty easy to break into pieces because it was small. Sometimes you'll have like a whole, like page you'll have to put into a summary, but you can still break it into pieces by using the who, what, when, where, why, and how, no matter how big it is. How to put a summary into a paragraph that I did not know how to do in English 10. Okay, great. For everybody else that's on, if you could just comment in the chat box, please, and let me know something that you did not know before today. Anybody else? I have a few other people on the line. Let me see. DJ, what about you? And Jamie, what about you? And then I have somebody with a phone number that starts with 241, but there's no name. If you all could just chime in for me and let me know one thing that you didn't know how to do before. Jamie, I didn't know how much he helped after they were freed. Okay, so you learn more about the actual slaves and how much help was provided to them. after they were free. So that's good. And then VJ, and then whomever the 241 participant is. I'm sorry, there's no name, so kind of just using that one. If you could just chime in for me. So I know this lesson was very short. Does anybody have any questions about summaries or something that maybe is still puzzling to you, something that's confusing? Okay, so again, this lesson was short. Oh, DJ, perfect. How to do a summary, I understand it now. Wonderful. So if you think of any questions later, you can always email me at erica.web. It's Erica with the C, so erica.web@graduationalliance.com. Or you can send me a chat message if you are actually a student of mine. You can send me a chat directly. Pretty much, I try to keep the lessons pretty brief, so that way you're not overwhelmed with a lot of information. So hopefully you'll be able to remember this technique when you're asked to summarize something. Just remember you want it to be very brief, short, to the point. Use your who, what, when, where, why. Write all of those out, and then combine all of those together, and then make a coherent short paragraph by maybe having to add a couple words in between, so you can actually get some longer sentences, and you will have a wonderful summary. So again, if you have any other questions or comments, feel free to email me and or chat message me. And if we don't have any other questions, I will go ahead and end the lesson.